Well, it's summer, isn't it? So no point calling. No one's going to be there, are they?
Everyone's on holiday.
Everyone's away there. We're at home playing with the kiddie wing. Welcome, bienvenue. Welcome once again to another live stream with my dear friend David Chernick and myself, Gareth, Wax, the man of many purple hats. And today's topic is, as David just pointed out to me, kind of a reflection of something we talked about, seems like an age ago, at Christmas. As typified by my silly impersonation earlier, well, you don't have to do anything. Summer's here, so what's the point, you know?
Nobody's going to be there.
Nobody's going to be there. So
they're all away. They're all away.
Probably all at the same all-inclusive holiday somewhere. That's not how you can run a sales program, is it? Really? Because if you let your foot off, not the accelerator, but just maintaining a reasonable speed, you'll be forgotten like last week's chip paper.
Now, it is, I should point out that it is the case, I think, that that a lot of people slow down over Christmas.
Right.
I have loads of clients every year who tell me, and I've had the same experience myself, that it can be harder to get decisions out of people, as it can be during December as well. But it's not that people are not around. I mean, some people are not around, but unlike, I mean, in France, for example, a lot of public sector goes away or has a break or is off work for August.
Right.
But we don't tend to have that here. I mean, people do go away, but, you know, during the 3 months of summer, you know, they don't go away for the entire 3 months. You know, they might go away for 2 weeks or less.
Right.
So they are around.
And you were pointing the point that we're not just talking about on the phone. We're not just saying, you know, there are other ways of creating touch points with people other than using the phone.
I mean, I know that one of the things that is important in your business that you talk about a lot is the C word.
The consistency.
Consistency.
Absolutely.
Yeah, consistency is an important thing. I mean, as much for us as individuals as it is for our sales pipelines, but just to maintain a consistent flow of people into and through your pipeline. And yes, I would always advocate for closing whatever time of the year it is. And, you know, if you followed a sales methodology, as we've talked at length at here, you know, the close is something that forms a natural part of the sales process.
And you have to be aiming for that. Otherwise, what is the point? You're not there just to be their chum.
But you might have some, if you have followed a sales process, you might have some idea of when the close might be happening. Yeah, something that you've been open with your prospects about, that hopefully they have been able to indicate to you when they might want to do that. You know, if business slows down for them and they're less likely to make decisions during summer or for a period of the summer, it's unlikely to be for the 3 months of summer, then, you know, it's good to have found that out at the early stages of when you are proposing deals. So, for example, we talk a lot about qualification before somebody gets into your pipeline. And one of those qualification criteria is about the estimated close date. Yeah. If you were to become a client, or when do you think you'd be signing up? the answer to that question. So again, that hopefully will take into account their timeframes as much as yours. So, you should have some idea of when that might be. But nonetheless, it might be that during the summer period, people take a longer to make decisions. And that's just a factor of, it can be a factor of decision makers being away for part of it. It can be a factor of other things too. For example, a lot of businesses do other sorts of activities during the summer. One example that I've come across a lot is that they are preparing for exhibitions and conferences that might start in September. So they might do those sorts of things. They might also have started their budgeting season for the next financial year. There could be a whole host of different things. But nonetheless, armed with a date at the qualification stage of the estimated close date, you should always be working to that, regardless of what the season is. So don't allow yourself to get into the summer not knowing what those dates are.
You should always have a part of your plan. That's the thing. I think you've got to. Whenever I was trying to put together my sales program, I mean, admittedly it was for a team, but I always said to them, and it applied just as much to myself, take into account the areas you think are going to be quiet. You always need to plan into those times touch points so that people see that you're relevant and available.
Yeah. So that's another point you just raised there, is to make people know that you yourself are available. And right. If you're a sales manager, we want to be trying to figure out what people's plans are, your workers, your direct reports plans are during the summer for developing their pipelines.
Right.
Now, the pipeline itself is not all about the close. There are a lot of people that do what we do who say always be closing. But it's not all about the close. I mean, you know what we're talking about, the close. It's that bit where we're asking for the deal. There are a number of steps that follow to go through that. And summer, I have found, as with December, people can be a lot more open.
Yes.
So in fact, that is the first of two main reasons that might motivate you to be still grinding on during the summer. First reason is that people tend to be a little bit more open. It's the summer, they're a little bit more relaxed, and there's sort of a season of goodwill. Okay, so we take advantage of that and we ask them pertinent questions that can help fill in the boxes during our sales methodology. So they might be more open to be able to tell you the sorts of problems that keep them up at night and what they would consider to be ideal solutions to those problems.
I would say that also during those periods of time, they may also be planning for the point when the people they're looking to support within their businesses or from their businesses are coming back. So they may want to get those infrastructure projects, for instance, if that's what you're providing for them. I remember when I used to work in Cisco sales, often you'd be able to say to people, well, there's going to be a big rush when they all come back. So do you want to get your infrastructure issues sorted now before that time? So during the time where it was quiet for everybody else, we'd be making hay. And, and the same may well work for you guys. That could be a genuine reason why you want to actually get somewhere closer towards the close so that they've bought into the process and that you can say to them, right, we're going to get this closed by X for a delivery by Y, so you can get get going with your infrastructure.
Yeah. What is your business expecting of you to deliver in September?
Exactly. That's the thing. And so you may think, oh, well, everybody's quiet. Actually, some people are gearing up for the re-influx for everybody back from holidays or wherever it is. So that may be an absolutely exquisite reason why you can go to these people and say, I'm actually helping you out here by talking about closing this project, getting you delivery, getting your services in place before suddenly there's an influx of people back into your business.
Yeah, which does bring me neatly onto the second main reason why the summer is a good time to call, as is December. And that is that all the other salespeople think it's quiet and aren't being active. You know, this is a time when they will not be probably receiving 200 phone calls a day.
Yes. So it's the same reason why you can send physical letters through with a greater chance of being read. The same reason. It's the same deal. No, people just aren't doing it. And they aren't calling at that time. Yeah, because a lot of people assume, what's the point? That is a perfect opportunity for you to make hay.
Absolutely. So those are sort of two big reasons why to do it. But we were discussing earlier on in the green room what the causes are for it being so quiet, and whether indeed it is just because people think that, you know, summer is not a time to be calling people. And
I mean, I was actually being perhaps a little bit mean by suggesting that people are just frankly scared of the phone. It's yet another excuse for them not to pick up the phone, for them not to make those connections.
So that is, I mean, we find that a lot. I think both of us would find that a lot, that, you know, wherever there is a possible excuse, salespeople are going to reach for that excuse.
I'm not being mean about it. It's a natural thing. You think, well, you know, why should I bother? I'm not particularly keen on doing it anyway, and here's a good reason for me not to do it. So I'll do that paperwork instead. The thing is, I think it's a natural urge to stay away from things that you perceive as causing you pain. So I always say to people, don't just set yourself a target, make it a bit of a game. Maybe reward yourself something nice if you manage to get those 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 calls done, and even more, give yourself an even bigger treat if you manage to get through to people and have a good conversation.
Yep. So that's one of perhaps a number of techniques for doing it. The key is, as you always point out, is consistency, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, don't you start slowing down just because you perceive that everybody else is awake.
No, because that's the point. You'll stick out, won't you?
I think you will. Now, you can use different approaches. So it is also fair to say, and we've discussed this in a previous episode when it came to the December Christmas period, that, you know, using a seasonally relevant form of language is also, you know, a good idea. So it might be that during these hot, steamy months, or here in the UK,
that's by the way, guys, for you listening, that's anything above 19 degrees C is hot and steamy in the UK.
You know, that people might be behaving slightly differently and might not be as abuzz as usual. So just, you know, make sure that you're matching the general mood. You know, be yourself. You know, be consistent, but be your genuine self. You know, if you are struggling to actually get hold of people, remember that the phone is not the only way.
Right.
You know, and we also talk about having like a multi-pronged strategy here, that, you know, generally we find, and I think we have similar experiences here, Gareth, but generally we find it can take six attempts to touch someone in order to actually feel them. You say slightly more, eight. I think eight. Maybe it depends slightly on the quality of those touches.
Yes, and also it can also depend on timing, funnily enough.
Yeah, so there's a lot of variables here, but in order to reach one person for the first time, in order to be able to get through a door, we will do an episode on getting through to the right person again. I'll approach it from a different angle, but it will take several attempts. Gareth says 8, my experience is 6, but there or thereabouts. This is not going to be just a phone call. This could be a couple of phone call attempts, plus a couple of emails.
It could be a phone call, a talk to a connector who is directly either works with or in the same department as, or it could be I'm just going to use my own. In the old days when I was working on Cisco type stuff, often I would speak to engineers within the department. I'd speak to the head engineer, none of which would be the decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would speak to the operations director, and then probably the MD. And the idea being was I would make such a great impression on those engineers, knowing in detail what their problems they were going through and how this technical solution would help them, that when I spoke to the guys who were actually dealing with budgeting and so on, they would perhaps have already had a discussion with them saying, this guy Gareth says, if we get this sorted, we could improve this or reduce that or whatever it is. And I would broker a face-to-face based on all that effort. So I mean, if I can map this over, I would say then perhaps talk to other people around your target,
including the call answerer. Including always going to be answering the phone, and the person who answers, who we've talked before. Some people might call the gatekeeper. We don't call them that.
We don't use that word.
But that person also is somebody that you can reach out to. And that the fact it's not just the phone, we could be messaging and emailing and writing a personal letter to them. Those 6 to 8 attempts are definitely worthwhile during the summer. And just to summarize, although the reasons for you not doing it might be that you genuinely think it's quiet, or that you are just afraid of making those calls, and this is just another excuse. But the reasons why it's good to do it is that, one, people might be more receptive to you during these sorts of months as they are in December, that sort of seasonal goodwill. And secondly, that you are going to have far less competition, because the majority of people think that it's quiet and so don't pick up the phone.
We've had a number of messages from Jonathan McDonald, mostly about the length of your beard. But yes, he's asking when you're going to start getting ready to work as Santa, which I think is possibly.
I already know a good Santa in the form of Paul Rose, so I wouldn't want to.
All right, so all that remains for me to say is thank you so much, David, for helping steer this conversation. Don't fall for summer's quiet is all I can say. Go out there and go and get them, Tiger. Remember, keep your feet on the ground, but keep reaching for the stars and look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.
Ciao, ciao.